To ještě 2 minuty? Kam začneme? Okay. Well, it's 5:08, so I think we should start with the Plenary Roundtable 4 on the social impact investing in social economy enterprises. Some of the people are still coming, but I think we shouldn't be too late because there's agenda also later on. So I would like to warmly welcome all of the guest speakers at this panel and all of the participants, especially because I feel very comfortable and home here. I'm coming from the Fund 05, which is a foundation for social and impact investment based here in Kran, just 200 meters away from this wonderful Congress Center. Not that we would be owners of this one, but we kind of feel at home here. So I have a special pleasure to welcome you all here. What I'll do is I'll do a very short introduction of what we do, and then I think we have a bit less than 1 hour for each of the participants to present their topics, and I really appreciate your participation here. We have a very wide presentations from Finland, Slovenia, Italy, United Kingdom, and Austria, so I think it's going to be very, very interesting. Let me start with, as I said, just a few minutes of who we are and what we do. I'm coming from Foundation for Social and Impact Investment, and what I would like to tell you is that we are very much linked to the social impact investment and the topics that we'll talk today about, and I feel very comfortable with all the teams that were already spoken today. We do 3 things, basically, in one of the topics, which is social and impact investment. We try to help the Slovenian social enterprises, actually, with the funds, and we are tiny, small private foundations, actually having investments into social enterprises and social economy organizations. In the last 4 years, we invested approximately 2.06 million euros, and around 300 investments in a very small size were done in different types of bridge loans, hybrid loans, crowd guarantees, social investments, and so on. So we're kind of trying to build on a market also in Slovenia. As already said, in some of the markets, you can clearly see there is a lack of, both capital and also both of the needs within the social enterprises. The second thing that we do, and I think it's even a bit more interesting for us and a bit more complex, is that beside of the lack of the money, especially in Slovenia, in the region, is that we try to build what we call the impact chains. The impact chains means that we're trying to serve the social enterprises to kind of help them with their needs in the 4 main fields: in the development of the products, in the impactization of the products, in building the market, and trying to help them with the finances. And what we do is we do it together with the partners. So in a sense of building a chain of key players that understand the needs of the social enterprises, together with the bigger companies, with the banks and with others, we have agreements and contracts, and we try to help to social enterprises in that sense. And based on the approach of the social enterprises and on the reality of complex problems, the third thing that we do, and I think it's the biggest challenge for us, is what we called building the impact molecules, which is a weird word by the end of the day, but what we're trying to say is that sometimes some of the problems in the society can't be solved in an easy business way. They have to be seen as complex challenges, and if you see them as the complex challenges, then you can also respond to them in a complex way. So trying to find the place for the social enterprises in these molecules where we want to solve the challenges, I think is one of the main crucial challenges for us, and especially talking with the investors and with people with the money, because if you have the social enterprises entering towards the investors, you might have a problem with mutual understanding, with the lack of trust, and so on and so forth. But if you build what we call molecules, if you build partnerships, then it's so much easier to understand this mutual world. And it goes very much, it's not a chemical process, but you have a definition of molecular. What we have is the definition of impact molecular, what it means to build and to solve society challenge. And this is where we are a bit different, because we are not supporting the social enterprises because they exist. What we do is we support them because they are a key player and one of the key players in solving the challenges in society. And I think this is a very important message for all of us who approach to the investors, who approach to the people with the funds, saying that they can be a part of the problem solving, not just the financer in that sense. Because what we found out in these structures and molecules, well, there's an example on the left, those who are more familiar with the chemistry of B12 vitamin, and this one is on the migrants. But it's a very much similar complex scheme how to solve that problem. But what we found out in this structure is that practically in every of these structures, there is a place for two stakeholders. One is investor and people with the money, and the other one for the social enterprises. These are what we say two very important atoms in this molecule. So what it means that a lot of complex society problems can't be solved properly without social enterprises. And in this sense, I think it's very important to understand that and to build on mutual understanding and trust. So that I won't be too long, what I just wanted to say is, my final word is, we do that, well, our word is developing by practicing. So all of you were already hopefully invited to invest a bit of a symbolic coins that we produced. One of our social enterprises within the group, the victims of violence, are producing wooden impact coins. So if you take them, they're on the stand, and you visit the social enterprises here at the fair, what they will get from your symbolic money will reimburse them in a real money, showing that each event also needs to have a real impact for them. So not necessarily that we just talk about things, but we want to invest and we want to do some of the progress. And in this case, since already said we are very small, tiny, micro, I think we won't invest more than 1,500 euros in this case, which is a lot of money for us. But coming now to my guests, I would first like to invite Mr. Mika Pyykkö, Project Director from the Impact Investing Finnish Innovation Fund Sitra, to make a presentation. Mika, warmly welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here and try to do my best based on what Mr. State Secretary asked me to do. Let's tell less than 10 minutes what you have done during the last 3 years in Finland and what you plan to do next 5 years. So I try to tell you very briefly based on that advice. Maybe first a couple of words about my background organization, Sitra. It is Finnish Innovation Fund, which is established 50 years ago by Finnish Parliament. And we are supposed to challenge our society in general in terms of sustainable development. We are think and do tank as well as investor. We are reporting to our parliament, but we are very independent because we don't get any funding outside our organization, because our endowment is about 900 million euros at the moment, and we are working by using the return of our endowment. So we have about 40-50 million euros per year as that kind of functional money to use. So after that, I have 3 different perspectives to tell you. When we started our impact investing focus area in Sitra for about 3 years ago, we really talked that what would be the added value in terms of impact investing to our society, Nordic welfare state called Finland, and which is supposed to be that kind of welfare state without using private money very much. And so after our survey, we decided that we really can use the private money in the best way when we start to challenge our government to use taxpayers' money just using the method payment by results. So, you know, when you go to the government people and tell them that you are not doing very well at the moment, I don't want to look at your direction at the moment, those government people, you know, they first answer that, of course we are doing our best to use taxpayers' money. What do you want us to do a little bit different way? So we recognize that by using impact investing and social impact bond as a Trojan horse, we can start to discuss about the systemic change in our society. So during last 2.5 years, we have been challenging our government as well as our local authorities to make that kind of decision, and they procured more impact than different kind of activities. Not to do the budgeting as a normal way they are used to do, you know. They are budgeting to get different kind of activities, and then the government and the local authorities hope to achieve those goals they have set in different kind of plans. So we have wanted them to learn very new kind of way to use that taxpayers' money, and that was the tool to this kind of discussion was a social impact bond. That is not the issue for us, the vehicle itself, but the idea behind that possibility. So we had challenged our government to use taxpayers' money in a different way and also focus on promotive and preventive action in terms of well-being. You know, as a Nordic welfare state, you may know that our social and healthcare system is quite good, but it's still focusing very much on ill health. There are not too much preventive actions, and due to that, we are paying a lot of cost every year by that kind of, let's say, phenomena which could be prevented by upfront investments and long-term activities. So this is the first that kind of learning to you from our society, that you can challenge your government using the payment by result method, and due to that really focus on promotive and preventive action in terms of well-being in different population groups. And when we challenge our government to, in fact, we have building up this kind of social impact bond funds at the moment in Finland. One is occupational well-being, and the other one is integration of refugees, and then you can see all those other funds. But anyway, that means that our government is willing and ready to implement this kind of new idea and try to do it best to make that kind of systemic change in our society. And the second thing, when we first have challenged our government, we of course have to have different kind of service providers who sell impact instead of as cheap as possible activities. So we have run Accelerator program for different kind of startups and medium-sized companies. And we don't always call those companies social enterprises, because we made a survey, and in Finland, based on that survey, there are about 20,000 companies who could be called as a social enterprise, but only few of them want to be called as a social enterprise. Instead of social enterprise, we call them impact actors in future, because we really want to challenge them to sell to our government as well as our municipalities, local authorities, impact instead of, as I mentioned already, as cheap activities as possible. So first we challenged our government, then we have started to spar different kind of impact actors to be ready to sell impact in future, and by that way to use taxpayers' money more wise way than we are used to use until now. And the third thing I want to highlight to you is that during last, let's say, 1 year, we have had a long discussion, that kind of normal discussion with our Prime Minister office, how to combine the idea of impact investing and that what is including that to the experimental culture which our government wants to support very much at the moment. And now we are building up that kind of new, let's say, ecosystem based on idea that, you know, that kind of unofficial group of people or NGOs or social enterprises or whatever, any kind of organization or unorganized group of people can find a better solution for our society in terms of different kind of services than the official system. And now we try to, or we do our best to really build up that kind of ecosystem, and we can support that kind of ideas, that we really find the best ideas, and then we can maybe scale them up by using private money. I mean the idea of impact investing. So that was the third lesson to learn, that experimental idea and experimental perspective and the idea of impact investing, how to use private money, can be combined and can give much more to the society than we have been able to achieve before. Ug.
Okay, thank you. Excellent. I think Slovenia knows what to do in the next 3 years, right? That's a clear answer. Well, great. What we do now is we go with two important institutions with the banks. First, I invite Mr. Sibil Svilan, Director of SID Bank in Slovenia, on the financial services for the sustainable development.
Good afternoon on behalf of SID Bank, and thank you for the invitation to be part of that kind of panel. Of course, we are not so well developed as Finnish Sitra is, but I will try to do in next 10 points, I hope it will be in 10 minutes, about the role of promotion and development banks for, let me say, social enterprising in the view what we as a Slovenian National Promotional Bank are seeing. First of all, SID Bank is the National Promotional Export and Development Bank. And you can see here the main mission that we have. That means that we are providing financial services that are, in fact, complementary to the market. And of course, they are everything in direction of sustainable development. You can see now here also on the second line what are the basic principles of our work. And from that you can see that, of course, we are working on a market failures or market gaps. And second, as you can see here, is of course very important that our aim is not the profit, but of course the other possible infection and externalities for the society. Of course, this is the aim for most of the development banks. So we can call us also some kind of social enterprise or social bank, but of course not in the sense of the Sitra, but in sense of that what the promotional and development bank are doing. Of course, we have the legislation which is in fact in settlement of that what we can do or what we can use. And as you can see, we are using only the financial instruments. So our funding is coming from international markets when we are covering the market gaps. And just for slate flavor, the bank has about 3.5 billion balance sheet or assets and 400 million capital. And of course, we are working entirely in Slovenian market. Now, what we are covering here are some of those possible, I will say, gaps which are also connected with the social enterprising. That are, of course, small and medium enterprises, especially in possibility for self-employment. And, of course, research and development in direction of social innovation. And, of course, housing, social housing, and employment. But, of course, we are strongly supporting all the, let me say, possibilities and actions in direction of circular economy and sustainable development of Slovenian enterprises. What exactly we are, I think it goes here. What exactly, point number 2, is implementation of the EU cohesion policy in Slovenia. You can see here the data about that. I'm sorry, there is the bank total EU funding. That's a total funding for Slovenia for the next period, 3.1 billion. And of course, here are the expected social impacts for that. The second is, of course, the European social funds. And then there are thematic objectives which are supporting this kind of things. There are 2 thematic objectives, number 8 and 9, that are employment and labor and social inclusion. And you can see that this is targeting about 80 social enterprises in Slovenia. Now, to be frank and open, we are not directly included in that. But what is important is that thematic objectives 8 and 9 are implemented only with grants. That means no combination of instruments. That means no multiplication. And of course, that means that is the reason why we are not included in this kind of things. Now, this is not the best practice in Europe. The best practice in Europe is, as you can see, if you look on the slide number 4, in direction of what they are doing in the best countries, or let me say the most developed countries in Europe, like Germany or Italy. You can see the 2 examples of development banks. One is in Development Bank of Hessen in Germany, and the second is North Rhine-Westphalian, where are the funding programs for housing and other social housing and social inclusion. And the third example that we have prepared here is Finland from Italy, including the European Social Funds and Jeremy in the fields of cooperative. This is not the case in Slovenia, so our experience in this sense is limited. Although this is limited experience, I can give you some examples what we are doing in this field. And of course, here you can see 3 programs that are not specially dedicated for solely the social housing or inclusion or social enterprises, but are indirectly involved in this. This is social housing that we are doing through the loans to municipalities. And here is the approximate size, about 100 millions, that's per year. And of course, there are some conditions. In the interest of time, I will skip some of the details. The second one is social enterprises and the enterpriseship in sense of the self-employment, which is especially for small and medium enterprises, which are in the programs quite similar to the social enterprises. I will describe some of those things later on. And of course, the third one, which is also very important for Slovenia, are cooperatives. You can see here that we have had some programs in lending in this field, but they were not very successful. And there are some challenges below which are remaining in this field of the cooperatives, which should remain in the future. Now, point number 5, access to finance and type of financing that we have in mind. This is cooperative, sorry. This one now, access to the finance and the financing. There are some problems, but the first one, which I can say, which is most important, is of course how to make shift from grants to financial instruments, because we see this is possible for multiplication and of course also the intensive, I will say, support of financing in this field. Demand of or for replaceable finance and investment is small, is growing, but it's still not high enough. And of course, we don't have the market gap analysis in this field, but still we believe that there is a size, this is not enough, and we have to increase this kind of things. The second thing which is very important is the issue of, let me say, accessing the finance, and here we focus ourselves on the basis on that activities that are concentrated on social enterprises in the field of, let me say, invest in the more risky activities. That's like waste management, social housing, and others, which are present in Slovenia. And you can see here the main challenges for those kind of companies, why they cannot access directly to the financing in this firm. And the last but not less important is, of course, insufficient financial knowledge in the social enterprises, especially the managers. And of course, there is a need for tailor-made, let me say, programs and things which are necessary to be seen from the point of view of the servicing for financing. Now, if you allowed me, point number 6, possibilities how the cohesion policy implementation could be used in Slovenia in the future. We can see here the target objective number 1, that means the strengthening research, development, and innovation in this phase, because we believe that this is necessary to support if we want to have really innovation which will succeed. Because as you know, ideas are not enough to stay in heads or on papers. They have to be implemented in the real life. And this is something what is necessary to be done also with financing. The second is the enhancing of the competitiveness of small and medium enterprises. There is this SWIFT, which we see like in the social enterprises also be used also for small and medium enterprises, and special then urban development with housing, special energy efficiency, and similar things. The financial instruments here you can see are, from our points of view, especially in 2 directions, the guarantee schemes and the senior microloans. Here is also the possible size of that, but because we are running out of time, 2 minutes, I will skip. You can find all the data if you want on our website about that. In interest of time, I will skip also why the European Investment Fund is not used in Slovenia, but maybe then later on in discussion. Now, let's go to point number 7, the main challenges for Slovenian scaling up the social economy. I will stress just 2 of them. The first one is the, let me say, enterprise legislation in sense of political enlargement of the legal forms. What I mean here is the weak ability to involve the relevant stockholders in all, let me say, dynamics that is needed for the social enterprises. We see that several times in different fields, also in fields of cooperative, which is special for Slovenia, although this is very, very good practice in other countries. The second part is the policy, let me say, public policy role in social enterprises in relation to the public welfare system. I think here are some cases that will be, or they have been discussed already today. I will not repeat that in sense of that. I think the Mrs. Smart from UK could tell you more about that because they have really effective programs in this field, and especially it's important for promotion or of integrity role, or let me say subsidy law of the privatization, let me say public health and other things. And the last thing is, of course, the management skills development, which I already mentioned as a weak one, and we need to make the tailor-made management financial skills education in this field. Now, point number 8, SEED Bank as a national promotional bank is using, in fact, up to now, let me say, different investment and different financial instrument. And we would like that the best practice from Europe, as I described it before, should be used also in case of Slovenia for, let me say, scaling up Slovenian social economy. And of course, we are able to do some of those things as we did in other fields like green bond. We are able also to do in these fields the social impact bonds or, of course, social, let me say, impact investing. Point number 8, the main challenge is they will remain in the future. Why? Because it was already mentioned in introduction, the complexity of work is increasing, and I'm sure that you know that, of course, development banks are trying to solve some of the problems, especially in the direction of sustainable development, but we don't have all the means and aims to do that. So I think those challenges are there and will be there also for Slovenia in next years, but we have to tackle them with the best practice of Europe and some of the best practices that you have here today. I will just conclude that the potential of cooperatives and other social enterprises in Slovenia is present. And of course, promotion and development banks, we are, let me say, ready or able to finance that kind of growth, or in direction that those companies or those enterprises will become the problem-solving players and not vice versa. I will stop here in the interest of time. Thank you for attention. All other informations you can download from our website, or you can call my colleagues if you have any further question. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Svilan. I propose the questions and the comments come at the end so that we do round first, and I would invite the second bank on the panel. So, Mr. Giancarlo Miranda, as the president of the management board of Intesa São Paulo, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Many of you probably will ask themselves at this point, what is a commercial banker got to do with social enterprise? And the other following question, what a commercial bank should do for the social enterprise sector? Let me tell you first of all that I was not supposed to speak in this panel. My colleague and friend Marco Ratti from Banca Prossima, I will come to Banca Prossima in a second, was supposed to be here today. He had to cancel overnight. But out of the 60,000 people that work in Intesa São Paulo Group worldwide, by chance, Marco Ratti is one of my closest friends, and we debated the presentation back a few months ago when we presented in the presence of the State Secretary in a forum that we discussed. And I'm quite acquainted with this line of thinking to be pretty sure that I will interpret this way of presenting things here. So first of all, first question. What has a commercial bank to do with the social enterprise sector? But commercial banks, unlike funds, public sector funds or development institutions, have a clear target, which is making the P word, the profit word. That is, we are a profitable institution, we are private sector, therefore we are not family, they are not fools, we are not friends, we are here to make sure that profit is made at the end of the day. So why a big international group found out that social enterprises could be profitable? One thing that came to my mind, to our mind, when we were presenting this thing, is that really one of the fundamentals of the social enterprise sector is that it is less risky. It was mentioned in the panel before, but it's true. It was an intuition back in 2007 when Banca Prossima, our social enterprise arm in the Intesa Sanpaolo group, was created, but it was in fact true. Remember the dates, 2007 the bank was set up, Lehman Brothers had a little problem in those years, and back now, there's a little figure, by the way, Sibil before challenged my farsightedness, but I think it was somewhere there, probably the last figure that you see at the very bottom of this page, 3.1% non-performing loan ratio. 3.5% of loans which were deteriorated. If you measure that against the average of the Italian system where Banca Prossima is operating as part of the Intesa Sanpaolo group, that's a factor of 5 at the moment. So it's 5 times less risky than the general economy at large. So it was a good intuition back in 2007 to set up a dedicated arm for the social economy. We call it that way at the time, social enterprises more in particular. Certainly, that risk factor stems out of the fact that there is an inherent level of cost which is more manageable. Certainly, in the Italian experience and case, it was because volunteering is a strong component of the cost, which is a non-cost, in fact, in the social enterprise sector. So a good reason for a commercial bank, unlike other institutions, to be present in the sector is that the sector is inherently less risky. And let me tell you now, a good 10 years or so after the crisis, which in Italy had a very huge impact, the social enterprise sector was much more resilient than the other components of the private sector of the Italian economy. So that was quite interesting to notice that the intuition was good because it was less risky, but also more resilient in terms of turnover. Now there's another big little number somewhere there, 65 billion of total turnover in Italy. And the growth of the turnover was much faster than the rest of the economy, and the growth of the employment was also much faster than the economy. Those 3 elements alone was good fundamentals, as to put it in economic jargon, to make a separate arm alive and well, and to create one. And in fact, the thing went on. Banca Prossima was set up in 2007, at the time with only 30 people, all of them coming from experiences in the social enterprise sector or volunteering in Catholic organizations sometimes, non-profit organizations. Now the total head count is 400, and we reached a very respectable number of something like 1.7 billion loans to the social enterprise sector alone in Italy. So quite, as I said before, a respectable number. This is answering the reason on why should a commercial bank think in terms of social enterprises and social enterprise sector. Now, what should that do? One word was just mentioned briefly by Sibil before. Should adapt, first of all, because it's not as easy as that. When you look at the risk of the social enterprises, it's not the same risk as a typical standard private sector enterprise. Why? You have to adapt to some elements in the accounts of the company, in the sense, or the entity that you're about to finance, which are not standard. So not standard because they are recurring, but not typical of an enterprise activity. I'll give you an example for all. There's many social enterprises which live off donations. Donations are non-standard item in the balance sheet of a company, but definitely they are recurrent. And the moment we adapt that line of information into our rating systems, by the way, in Italy we go by rating. Unlike here in Slovenia, where I work, rating is dictating the whole thing, from lending to pricing. So It's very important to adapt, first of all, to the situation of social enterprises, and our rating models, which are long algorithms with variables, logarithmic regressions, are adapted in order to make the thing applicable to a situation where non-standard elements prevail, particularly on the revenue side. So adaptation. And another catchword I heard in the previous panel was follow-up. What the commercial bank should do is not being friend, fool, or family, is not being an investment bank, is not being a private equity fund. So forget about equity funding of social enterprises. What we have to do is our primary staple commodity, that is working capital. By funding, by way of working capital, the moment a company, a social enterprise has been set up, then we do the best thing that we could do. That is, exercise our capacity to instigate financial discipline. And on the model, it comes to a reason. And everything can be developing in a much more smooth way. Definitely, we know that it takes more time. That's why in Banca Prossima, it took a long time before we broke even as a bank. We are a profit organization working for non-profit organization or not-for-profit organization. So, but having embedded the anticipation that there is some time to take and financial discipline eventually will prevail and make social enterprises profitable, the success was there. And in fact, since 2011, 4 years after inception, operations of Banca Prossima became profitable. Profit has been mentioned also between the small figures there. 9 million is not bad for a 1.7 million worth company. Many other things could be said, told, and illustrated to you. You can find numbers here, figures. Basically, I would like to conclude in saying it was a success story. It was a good intuition. It was an element of choice. And the element of choice came out of one single qualitative, not quantitative, far-sighted vision. The vision that if entrepreneurship prevails in a sector, that sector is good for commercial bank financing. That was exactly the case. The line of direction, the direction of causality was not funding, then creation of enterprises. It was the other way around. Witnesses how entrepreneurship was there, was a state of nature, eventually created a good, I would say, ground for commercial banking to be effective in creating funding capacity for the sector. I would like to stop here and not to challenge again your vision and those more numbers, but I'm ready for question in the Q&A session afterwards.
Great, thanks, Mr. Miranda. Just from one of the roundtables a week ago, I think the speculation was that the first bankers in Slovenia will explain things as you in 2020 or 2025. So it's really appreciate that you already understand and support the whole process, both in Slovenia and also in your group.
I mean, there's a misconception about banks and bankers in particular, but I'm used to that.
It's true. Okay, we go further, and I think we take care of also the gender balance here. So I invite Ms. Deborah Smart, Head of the Programs and Grants from Social Investment Business from UK. Deborah, go ahead.
Hello, thank you for inviting me here today. It's a pleasure to speak to you. Just to let you know who Social Investment Business are, most people outside of the UK haven't heard of us. We actually started back in 2002, so we've been going for almost 15 years now, as an experiment that was set up by the UK government to see if charities could take on loan finance. Turned out they could. So we've managed a number of different funds and programmes since then. Our work has involved us doing work with various areas of the UK government and also some of our foundations, our foundation funders in the UK as well. And in that time, we've given out just over £400 million in grants and loans. In recent years, our split between grants and loans has actually moved so that we've done more in the grant space. Previously, a lot of our grants went in as blended funding alongside our loans because it was very much noted that blended patient capital could very much be what a lot of organisations needed. In recent years, our grants have very much moved into what we call the investment readiness space. So to refer back to the previous presentation, where there was a question about where do people go to grow, actually a lot of the grants that we offer now are actually around that growth capital. It's essentially capacity building to help people grow and to help to take them from where they are now to where they want to be, with the aim that by doing so they'll then be able to access repayable finance. In terms of, I was asked to give a little bit of context with regard to the UK social sector. It's actually quite interesting because although the social economy, if you like to call it, and social entrepreneurship in the UK can probably be described as being more established than other countries in Europe, I would say the challenges are very, very similar from what my colleagues here are describing. The social sector in the UK is large, but it is very, very fragmented. It's very interesting to hear all of the debate today around the need for legal definition of social enterprise. We do not have one in the UK. We have lots of different legal forms of companies that can be taken by different organisations, whether that be charity or different forms of company. But there is no definition of social enterprise, and believe me, it's something that still gets debated long and hard, often at events like this. But it is a great source, and it is a huge part of our economy. And my colleague is right in that a lot of social enterprises in the UK are very much involved in delivering public health services. So that is a big area. And actually, a lot of social enterprises do rely on income from statutory bodies to help them deliver services, and that is becoming increasingly common. However, there are challenges around that. You might have noticed we've got a bit of a political thing going on in the UK at the moment. We try not to talk about it too much, though, if I'm honest. In terms of the UK social investment market, what I've just tried to demonstrate here for you on this slide is just the difference between the supply and the demand. So what you have here on the left is actually the type of investment products that social enterprises in the UK are asking for. And the majority of what social enterprises want is unsecured lending. And if you look on the right, I apologise that it hasn't come out particularly well, but the grey box at the bottom is the amount of secured lending that is on offer. So one of the challenges that we have in the UK market at the moment is matching up what capital is available, because there is a huge supply of capital on the investment side in the UK, but matching that with the demand for what social enterprises actually want. And I think that's probably one of our biggest challenges. And so one of my words of caution to anyone in this sector, and something I've been seen to say quite a lot, is that actually we have to ground, excuse me, everything we do, we have to ground in what social enterprises want. So we really have to make sure we're remembering that. And I quite like putting those two bar graphs together so you can see that difference. And in terms of opportunities and challenges that may be coming for the social sector, I've dodged the big one for the UK because I think you all know about it. But actually, in the previous presentation, one of the words that was used as kind of the final word to sum up was collaboration, and I really would agree with that. I think no matter where organisations are operating, collaboration is a real key concept and a real key opportunity for people to take advantage of. There are huge changes happening across Europe in terms of who are delivering public services, and that can be a real challenge and opportunity for social enterprises. But the biggest challenge for social investors across Europe is actually the lack of investment-ready organisation. That table that I've put up there is actually from a report from the GIN, the Global Impact Investing Network, which quoted that actually there is capital available, but actually we need people to lend to. And so that's the work that I spend a lot of my time on at Social Investment Business, is helping organisations to become ready. Because you're right to say that actually lending to social enterprises is very secure when it's done in the right way. And what we try to do is make sure that organisations are ready to take that on, so that not only do they get the right finance for them, because I think that's a real key point when we're talking about any financial instrument. It has to be right for the recipient as much as it's right for the lender. But equally, if we get those deals done in the right way, it does mean that we're more likely to keep bringing the money back in, because they are going to be the secure investments that we're all looking for at the end of the day. I'll finish there.
Great. Deborah, thanks. I think we could easily agree on the challenges of the matching, the supply and the need, and the investment ready, and the collaboration that surely works for all of our countries in that sense. I would invite two representatives now from the Interreg Central Europe program, Ms. Chiara Casarella and Ms. Jana Valkova, to present, well, what is written here, funding opportunities for social innovation, social economy and migration. So please
yes,
go ahead.
thank you very much. Also from our side, we're very happy to be here. It's very, very interesting for us. So we're going to look at the topic of funding from a different perspective. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Safe trip.
Safe trip. Bye-bye. So, and so it's a different perspective, and it's the perspective of the European Union, coming from the EU cohesion policy, exactly. So I just like to ask you, who knows about transnational cooperation programs, Interreg namely. Can you raise your hands so you do a little bit of exercise? That's great. That's a lot of you. So you know what we do. We're 107 programs altogether, what we call the Interreg family. And what we try to do is we try to build on the cohesion policy to create, to improve the regional policies in our countries of the European Union. So where do we stand? What is the Central Europe program? Where do we stand? We started in 2014. And it's a 7-year program, so until 2020. And so far, we have approved 85 projects for 160 million euros. We have a total of 246, as you can see. What's important as well is we cover 9 countries, so the Central Europe area, including Slovenia and Croatia, as we're here today and talking about this area. We are just finalizing now the contracting phase of the second call, and we have 4 different priorities we work on. So we have low carbon strategies, cultural and natural resources, transport and mobility, and innovation. And this is what I'm going to talk about briefly. This is what it's interesting for us today. Basically, the program wants to improve the skills and competencies of the actors of all these thematic priorities, and because we're talking of innovation, I'll say the actors of the innovation system, to help create environments that can make these topics, let's say, thrive. So we address entrepreneurial capacities. We want to strengthen the skills for innovation, including social innovation, entrepreneurships, and social entrepreneurship. And we come to today's topic, really. What's important for us as well is social inclusion, and we have here the topic of migration that it's ever more up high on all of our agendas. We also are part of a task force that is supported by Interact on how Interreg programs can help tackle the current migration challenges in the EU. And I think that even more when we're talking about social entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurial initiative, this is a line, a stream of thought that can go in there as well. So the main topics, as you can see them here, is we try to work around building support for entrepreneurship, healthcare services, qualification programs and skills development. We may not be in the position, actually we're not in the position to fund directly initiatives such as the ones from, like we have heard before, Romania or Albania, We do not give direct funding, but what we do is we try to support the actors of local actors to create the environment, the service, to help create new services and skills and competencies of the various actors from chambers of commerce, local municipalities, regional authorities that can help create the environment for these initiatives to thrive. So that's the important thing for us, and that's where we can make a difference. What's important for you, maybe, it is that the third call will be launched very soon in autumn 2017, actually on the 21st of September. And what's important for us is to come and talk to you, to audiences such as yours, because we, like I said, want to focus more in targeting and showing that there are opportunities for funding out there and targeting the actors of social innovation and social entrepreneurship. So that's it for the framework. I'll leave the floor to Jana. She's going to tell you about 3 projects that we have just funded, so we can only tell you what they are about. Maybe in a year's time we can tell you where they stand. And so Jana.
So good afternoon from my side as well. I'm here to present very briefly 3 projects that have just been selected within the second call, and they are now being contracted, so we don't really know how they will turn out and what kind of spin they will take. However, we have an overview where they're aiming and what they want to do within the territory. Their common denominator actually is given by the framework of the specific objective of the call, which was developing services to improve competencies and skills of social entrepreneurs and social innovation actors. So all of these 3 projects are aiming there, but they have different thematic focuses and scopes. So for you just to have an idea, one of these projects is called Social Eye Makers, and it strives to develop transnational community of social innovators in order to respond specifically challenges that are related to migration and to unemployment, and specifically youth unemployment. So this is the focus of the project. And they want to increase social innovation and operational skills and competencies of relevant actors. And they have very broad target groups or target audience, which are social SMEs, but also for-profit making SMEs, startups, social investors, NGOs, and also end users and citizens themselves. The project is actually aiming to develop tools such as toolbox for trainings, or a Skyrocket platform which aims to help matchmaking process and co-working of actors in social entrepreneurship. They also aim to implement an educational program and create transnational territory-based strategy for social entrepreneurship. The next project is also, as I said, aiming to improve specifically technological and managerial skills of the work integration of social enterprises. So this is very specific about this project, that these enterprises are the target audience, and the main argument is that such kind of services are probably available on the market for usual businesses, but these work integration social enterprises need tailor-made services, and that's what this project aims to develop. Again, the aim is to create a transnational strategy for these visas, for these work integration social enterprises, and develop an ICT platform and trainings to actually allow these companies to grow and probably scale up. And the last one that we've picked is called Sentinel. And this project also wants to improve knowledge and managerial skills. And they are specifically looking at remote areas that have these kind of services underdeveloped, or these areas might be disadvantaged from this viewpoint. The idea is to improve managerial competencies and facilitate emergence and sustainability of social enterprises. That's why they will create a toolbox of social business mentoring services, incubators, and mentoring services as pilot actions as well. Specifically, this project is also striving to develop transnational advocacy networks, so not only to link the actors and the partners within the project and the enterprises that will be supported through the project, but they also want to strive for better situation and position of these kind of enterprises within the market and within the institutional framework that they operate within. So that would probably be all from our side.
Okay, thank you. I think it's a clear evidence how important these tools are, especially if you noticed in the first project we had 7 countries, in the second one 6, and in the third one 4, which is a clear example how important it is to have tools to actually make development at the regional level. And I really appreciate your selection, because in the last one we were also partners, so we're happy with that too. We have another 5, hopefully 7 minutes, so without further delay, I would invite Mr. Ludovico Girardi from Interreg Adrian program for your presentation.
I will be really brief, because Adrian is a really new program, because it was created because there was the need to have a European territorial cooperation program transnational that have the same geographical dimension of European Union strategy for Adriatic and Ionian Sea. And this means that we started later than Central Europe or Mediterranean, and we will arrive on the 10th of May with the proposal of approval of the project of the first call. Okay, we start slowly, but we start. This is important. We are a really thin, little program, because we have only 100 million euro of total budget for 8 countries. 4 countries, European Union country, and 4 not yet European Union country. This means that we have Greece, Italy, Croatia, and Slovenia. Italy, the Adriatic and Ionian part of Italy, and 4 not yet European Union countries, Montenegro, Albania, Bosnia-Herzegovina, and Serbia. This is a strength program, because it seems to be a maritime basin program, but have Serbia, that have not a sea. Is Adriatic Ionian, but probably it's forgot to say Aegean, because there was also the Aegean Sea. And have 4 priority. The 4th is to help Adriatic Ionian strategy to carry on and to work better. And this is the reason because we found the facility point of EUSAR. And from the other end, we have 4 main targets that are innovation, that is to intend blue growth, but not only blue growth, innovation. And social innovation is really important in this area. There is also environment, tourism, protection of natural and cultural heritage, and transport, not energy, because we have not money enough to try to set up something of concrete in this field. But this is. And social and migration. We have to back to the strategy. The strategy, unfortunately, the Finland colleague is not here and cannot describe the history of the Baltic Sea, in where there was a clear environment problem in the sea basin of Baltic. Here in Adriatic Ionian, the main problem is to enforce the connection between the 2 sides of Adriatic and between this area in the southeast part of Europe. And to do this, we tried to work in different fields. But now there is a new field, really important, because if you look at the geography, if you go to the Aegean island, you found Kos. If you go to Italian island, Sicily, southern from Italy, there is Lampedusa. And all the route, maritime or inland route, have the main route of migrants that arrive in the Central Europe. This means that the problems of migrants, the problem related to the development of the country inside of this area, because you have to remember that the European Territorial Cooperation Program have the general target to improve the territorial development. This is the main. But in this area there are really different status, because there are regions, as my region, Emilia-Romagna or Lombardy, that are rich. They are in the higher level of richness in Europe. In Italy, Sicily not, or Calabria, or in the Western Balkan, there are different kind of problems. Problems also related to the migration, because there are countries in where migrants cross, go. There are an internal migration in this area and this external migration. And we have to take in consideration all these dimensions. Okay, there is not a specific target, a specific voice related to the migration. Dubrovnik Declaration at the first forum of EUSAI strategy, the strategy asked to all of the mainstream programs, all the European territorial cooperation programs, to put the migration problematics inside of the operational program, and ask especially to Adrian to found something related, to do something. For the first, we ask, and now we are waiting to start the study. We asked to ESPON program. As managing authority, we asked directly a specific analysis related to the migration inside of this area, and how can we doing as program to solve these difficulties, because it is difficult to evaluate projects inside of this so different aspect, to the different point of view, because the Serbian point of view, the Croatian point of view, the North Italian point of view, or Southern Italian are completely different. It is not so easy to find a specific issue. Also because you have to take in consideration the fact that the projects have to have not a local dimension, but a macro-regional dimension. And this macro-regional relation is difficult to manage. One point that there is inside of the operational program is the social innovation. And the social innovation can decline and can define in different way. And we can certainly accept, and we want to receive projects that have this specific point, because innovation for us don't mean to have an innovation in new things, in a new technology, but in a better use of the existing technology, in a better relation between administration and administration, taking into consideration the fact that European territorial cooperation is related, is devoted more to the public administration than to the private. And this is the reason because my colleague said that create the environment, because create the public environment in where the private sector can stay and can realize the action. We have to work in a synergy between privates and public. And this is a good place to work, but not looking at tomorrow, but looking at post-2020, if it is possible, because unfortunately we have not a short-time development, because our program goes slowly. Take in consideration that the second and the last call, we will launch it next year, at the beginning of the next year, because we now is in setup of the second call with the thematic steering group of EUSAR. And at the end of the process means that the projects will start at the beginning of 2019. We have, and this is good for the strategy, not good for a short-term solution, not for the emergency. But it is a fantastic place in where it is possible to improve the relation, improve the networking, improve the framework in where it's possible to carry on action. But to do it, it is important for the administration to have a strategy, to think in a synergy between different programs, different funds, different financial instruments, and European territorial cooperation in the transnational sector, in the transnational programs can help to put in synergy and put in development it. We try to do something, but we hope to do.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Mr. Gerardi. I'm a mentor in some of the incubators and accelerators, and I can feel your passion. I don't know whether it's appropriate to call a startup program, but I can feel how passionate you are about the goals of the Adrian, and I really appreciate it. I think it's going to be a wonderful tool. We started 10 minutes late, and we are now 14 minutes late. So I think today, we should wrap it up. Right. Okay, so I would like to thank you all for excellent presentations. Apology for being a bit late. And the clear instructions for the next two workshops. The second one, the workshop 2 on the European Social Fund and how to use the support, is all of you who want to stay is here. So the workshop number 2 is here, and the workshop number 1, drafting session for upgrading SIMI, social impact migrants investing in social enterprises. We go out and we go to the lower floor to the conference hall. So workshop 1, you go with us to that one. Workshop 2, you stay here. It's on the table. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, just another notice from the organizational committee. You see on the program that the networking event with the welcome drink is offered in Pivnica Union, which is in Ljubljana city, and just the transfer to Ljubljana is organized by the conference. Tonight we are not going back from Ljubljana to Brdo. The next transfer is in the morning. The people who are staying in Brdo, please contact me and I will give you the information how this issue will be managed. So I repeat that we have the organized transfer to Ljubljana at 7:30 here in front. And at 9 o'clock, we have the networking event with the welcome drink, because we also foreseen the free evening for you to enjoy Ljubljana by yourself in the city. And as you heard before, we have now 2 workshops. Thank you.
just need to...
Mika.
Maybe. If needed, please talk in the mic because of the live stream, okay? Yes, exactly. Yeah. Okay, I think with that we can start right now. Welcome everybody to this very, well, hopefully last session of the day, of a very long day. Thanks a lot for being here. This session is organized by the ESF Thematic Network on Social Economy, which is a network of European social funds managing authorities that in the social economy. There are, how many, Toby? 9 networks as a whole?
Yes.
Okay. That are a transnational network created by let's say, composed by managing authorities of the ESF and that have the aim of both to promote mutual learning and to also to support cooperation in order to organize a coordinated call within the ESF. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the ESF from, let's say, at least as far as transnational activity is concerned. I see some people from managing authorities. I don't know, who is representing here an ESF managing authority? 2, 3, 4, okay. And the other people, I guess, that are coming from the social economy sector, or are there any other people coming from the public sector? Okay. And we have... yes, more people are coming. Okay, well, that's...
Keep on growing like this.
Yes. That's quite good. So, as I was saying, the network has the aim to within the transnational activity funded by the European Commission, has the aim to support mutual learning and transnational cooperation. Let's say that the network this network started within this programming phase, but it was preceded by another, let's say, 2 networks that were also working on the social economy. And those 2 networks started, I think, the first one, it was called Better Future for Social Economy, and it started about 8 years ago, and ran for 3.5 years. And the second one, Social Entrepreneurship Network, which ran in the last programming phase from 2013 to 2015. Many of the members of the previous network are still here, luckily, and in the new network we have also new member states participating. Let's say that in the participation in the network up to now is let's say that it's open, in the sense that we started our activity with all those managing authorities who decided to participate in the network, which are the representative of, Poland, which is the leading member state of the network. Then we have Belgium. We have both Flanders and Wallon managing authorities. Then we have Sweden, Slovakia, Czech Republic, Slovenia, Greece, Croatia, Hungary, Spain, and Cyprus, and Bulgaria, which joined quite recently. But of course, other managing the participation is open to all the managing authorities that want to participate in our activities. The main activities that we are organizing within networks are, let's say, mutual learning activities, which consist mainly in peer reviews on topics that are chosen by the members of the network. We had a peer review last year in Poland on finance, and we will have another peer review in the Czech Republic in 2 months on on how to support social enterprises at municipal level. And then we also participate in other conferences like this one, and we also participated in the presidency conference that was organized in Bratislava in December. And we also organize other kind of meetings, also web meetings and, physical meetings as much as our funding allows us to do. And on the basis of a program that that was planned at the very beginning of the network, but we are sort of reviewing annually also according to the opportunities that we have. We will run within this conference 2 sessions. Tomorrow, the plenary on legislation, and today we have this workshop, which is, more practical because the idea is to discuss on how to use the ESF to support innovative social economy projects. ESF is a very important tool to support social economy, not so much at transnational level, because as said, the transnational activity is, only a part of the ESF support, but also at local level. And there are what I would like to propose you here is to have 2 presentations, one from Flanders and another one from Sweden, 2 countries that have been very, very active in supporting social economy and social enterprises within their operational projects, both at national and at transnational level. Let's say that I will go for these 2 presentations, and then we will open the debate to any kind of questions you may have, both from the 2 representatives that we have here are from the managing authorities. But they know very well also the project that they are supporting. So I think that they are really able to answer both technical questions about how really to organize a program to support social economy, but also more concrete things about concrete projects. And probably what is also very interesting is about problems and issues that social economy organization can have in accessing the social fund. So we will start with Karel van der Porten from the ESF agency from Flanders that has been really, really very active both in the network and in the support of social economy within the ESF.
Okay, thank you very much. Welcome to all in this, I think, most cozy session of the day. I have a quite big presentation, but I will go quite fast. As I can imagine, you're all a little bit tired, but I will try to stick as short as possible. So, what we will do is, what we will see is 3 types of calls, actually 2 calls, that we are running in Flanders today. It's innovation via exploration or through exploration, and innovation via adaptation. And we have now a public procurement assignment running. This is specific on social economy, to make a link between the social and the regular economy, to let them work together. But first, I'm going to the specific social innovation calls we are running. And what's the difference between the two? Are we setting the challenge or allowing it to be proposed? This is the difference between the 2 calls in one sentence. I will explain why. This is a small grid where we can see that in innovation via exploration, we are searching for radical new ideas. We are not intending to do incremental innovation. This will be the innovation via adaptation. This is the second call, and I will describe it later on. So how is it constructed? We have 2 phases. First, we ask to come to us with a challenge, not with a concept, an idea. You have to work and start from a real challenge question. If you are coming to us with an idea, then it's not enough for us, then it's not good enough, then you have to go to the innovation via adaptation, because you adapt an existing concept to a new situation. So we ask a challenge, and we ask to go on a path with this challenge. You have to define the challenge and discover what kind of insights you have. You have to run customer journeys, for example. You have to compare these customer journeys. What are the key issues? Which are the main indicators, etc., etc. Then you have to come to a definition of this. Define your concept. What kind of concept will you create to fight this challenge? This is a first phase that we fund for 6 months. After these 6 months, we have a gatekeeper. The gatekeeper is like a jury, an official board with experts who will give marks to your concept and decide whether you can go to the real development phase 2. So we fund a small part of the budget. It's like 50,000 euros for the first phase, but then actually the gate point is coming to go to phase 2. So this is a really interesting moment in this phase, because a lot of projects are not going further because it's not interesting, the concept is not defined enough, it's not innovative enough, etc., etc. When the second phase starts, you can actually develop your concept. You can test, you can retest. There can be evaluation. There are pilot groups, etc., etc. So the real innovative process is the developing process is starting only in phase 2, and there we foresee a budget of 150,000 euros. So what is the ultimate aim? In phase 2, a new service has to be developed. It's about services. And by the end of phase 2, this has to be evaluated. So it's not enough to just test it. There must be evaluation, there must be retesting, there must be focus groups, there must be a control group, etc. So we are guiding these projects very closely. We are really helping them to develop their methodology, etc., etc. The service needs to demonstrate that it supports the well-being and development of citizens in a better way. So this is, of course, for ESF a very important issue. This, in turn, contributes to relevant policy objectives. So this means it has to be matched with our operational program. So it's important from the start to focus on the challenge rather than a concept. It is the innovation process that we put forward. This provides, at the end of phase 1, several inputs that allows to decide whether we fund a more expensive second phase. So I already explained it's a 50,000, 150,000 difference. But what if people come to us with a concept, then we have something else for them. Then innovation via exploration is not a good idea, but we have innovation via adaptation. And this is an incremental instrument that you can use. You can use a best practice that has shown his importance elsewhere. You focus on existing already demonstrated projects, and you translate them to the new context. So you have to understand your context, but you also have to understand the other context. But otherwise, you can never change, you can never adapt, and we cannot evaluate. So this is how it works. It's actually very simple. So it must be a demonstration. You have to be able to demonstrate that this existing solution can be a good solution for your own situation, for your own concept in your region or country. Just a good idea is not enough, of course. I can imagine a lot of people have good ideas. There must be a real clue to the concept, and there must be a clue to our operational program and, let's say, labor market policy in general. So in innovation via exploration, it is the first phase that provides us the assurance. We can stop them after the first phase if it's not interesting enough or not innovative enough. With adaptation, it's really in the innovative practice that is already proven on another terrain. So we must see that it's already a good idea and that you are able to develop and to transfer and adapt it to your current situation. So we have a small gift for you. Most of people that I can see here know already this toolkit, but we developed a toolkit. It's written by my colleague Benedict Waters. You can find this on our website, isfflanders.be. You can see my email address at the end, so we can help you with the slide, to get this PDF format. Now I have some concrete project examples, because this is the theory, this is how we write the calls. I have 3 examples. I have one EV and one EVA. And I put an extra on top of it, especially for you, transnational project, Creative Cities, because according to me, it was quite interesting to add to the other 2. The first EVE is single parents in the labor market. It's a real challenge, as you can see already in the title. The EVA is cutted. You will see what it means later on. First one is about single parents in the labor market. Phase 1 is exploration of the challenge, as I already said, increasing the employment opportunities of single job seekers, counter their unemployment status and its consequences on their well-being. So phase 1 needs a research to increase the stimulating elements to a higher level and bring them higher than the barriers to find a job for these people, because it's really likely that there are a lot of different kind of barriers that prevent them from finding a job, so we have to overcome this. But first we have to define them, otherwise it's not possible. And a broader scope than financial issues. It's not only about financial issues, so we have to go further than this. We could all have known that this is one barrier, but maybe there are others, and for sure there are others. In the second phase, there's a concept. And the concept addresses various basic needs of the target group. In general, efforts have to be made to strengthen people's social networks. So this was the concept that came out of phase 1. This was the concept that was presented to our jury, to our committee, to our board, and was found by our experts a very good concept. It sounds very logical or easy, but the way how they developed it and the way how they filled it in was very good for us. So we give them a go, and their focus was to strengthen these people networks, these interactions, because they were so fundamentally. And if they are not existing, they have to install them. How will they do it? They created Neighborhood Link, and Neighborhood Link is the name of the concept. And they asked people, single parent job seekers, to take part in the organization of a neighborhood event, which contains various of steps, like an idea, what are we going to do, planning, logistics. It's a general project idea. But throughout these sessions, there are sufficient moments to evaluate these people, to put them together, because it's not one person, it's different persons. It's mixed with other neighbors who want to be a part of this coordinating team. And there is one coordinator who is giving the support and is leading actually the project. So people will not just thrown into the bathtub, there will be assistance enough, and eventually this will have to be we'll have to give a better connection with the neighbors and give them a better network, because this is the most important of all people's social network. And later on in the outcome, they will focus on the job. This is where the process is as today. So the project is running in this stage today. So I cannot give you more results, but so far we are very happy with these developments. I have also an EVA. It's called Cut It. Cutting is based on two methods, this work and Radko. It's actually a model of job crafting and carving. It's a quite known concept already, so this is nothing new. This is a concept that already exists, but what they have to adapt it to a new context. So they went to the Netherlands and Finland. It was not a transnational project because the concept was documented very well. What they do is analyze the process and rethink business processes in order to organize them differently and efficiently by redistributing the work and different tasks. So actually, this is done by analyzing the work process, separating relatively simple tasks and combining these tasks into new sustainable jobs, so that people with high skilled profiles are doing just the basic, most important high skilled aspect of their job, and the things that they don't like or they are tasks that are more better for low skilled are packed together and are created for people with less skills. This is a very classic idea of job carving and crafting, and this project implemented this in several sectors in Flanders. And then I have a third one, transnational projects, which I think is a very interesting one. Because it uses two problems. The first one is youth unemployment, and the second one is vacancy problem. So shops that are empty, not used, there's no enterprises, no entrepreneurship. And they just make a mix of the both. So the program will develop methods and tools to enable beneficial economic environments, creative startup climate, social inclusion among disadvantaged groups in suburban areas. This innovative and initiative ideas gives young people and creative entrepreneurs the chance in a temporary creative hubs and a quite protective area, the chance to start their commerce. These hubs are created in vacant buildings, as finding a place to do your startup in the city of Antwerp is really difficult, so they had an agreement with the city and some owners of shops that are empty to use them. This was a transnational project together with, this is a current transnational project that is run with partners from Finland, Bulgaria and Germany. If you have questions about these two calls, you can come to Benedict, who is quite known among you, and Eline Vermeers. They are both responsible for these calls. Then I have a last one. It's something more special. It's a public procurement assignment. I will go quite fast through it. But the initial idea is that we want to bring enterprises from social economy and regular economy closer to each other. Because the Flemish government wants to have a more and better transfer of employees from the social economy to the regular economy, because in social economy they are hardly granted, and they wanted to be more independent. But for this, we have to bring these two separate, totally different worlds to each other. In earlier projects, they tried to do it on the level of the employee, but this gave very poor results. Reasons are prejudices, feeling of competition or false competition, fear of losing the best employees, etc. Of course, this is in the focus of the Flemish social economy scope. This is a very specific scope where we have two legal entities, social workshops and sheltered workshops, who are structured in a sort of work integration policy. How do we want to do this? We want to get rid of the idea that you have just the supporter of the employee who try to find a traineeship, etc., because it always depends on the goodwill of an HR manager. We want to bring organizations together, not employees. If organizations have a better understanding, then there will be a better CSR, they will find business opportunities together, and this transition of workers will come later on, and it will be a normal question. So first on an organizational level, later we check the employees. Content of the assignment, we want 1 to 3 agencies to facilitate cooperation models between companies. And this is a quite general idea. This is also possible to implement in other kind of public procurement or other concept in social economy, but maybe it's interesting to show it very fast in here. What does he have to do? He has to be the matchmaker between the two. We emphasize the importance to bring together the decision makers. It's not the HR manager, but it's the CEO, it's the governance board that has to be together and has to find a common understanding about their business, about CSR, about co-creation, about founding new enterprises, etc., etc. We want to have 3 testing grounds per initiator, so we want to start with 9, and this in order to compare them with each other and to get a little bit of competition too, because it's something of being proud to have the best to have the best testing ground, as we call it. How does it work when they start? So now we are currently in the evaluation period. They will start in June this year. So we hope we will have 3 good service providers and 9 testing grounds. Estimated duration for each testing ground is 6 months. And every 3 months we assess, monitor. And we can ask for extra testing grounds because the operators are, of course, running at the same time. It's, as I said, very easy to compare them and to make a sort of competition between them in the governing board of our public procurement. When the testing ground is successful, and this is the most important step, then we can order new ones. We can scale up. So the first 3 are only to test. Afterwards, we want to go to 10, maybe 20. It depends on the budget that we have left. And there is for sure no guarantee of new orders. So if we don't like the work that they are doing, if there is no delivery or they don't reach good enough results or innovative ideas or a good copy of best practices, then we will do not an extension of the assignment. This was everything for me. Thank you. And if you have any questions, you can always contact me.
Thank you very much for this quite impressive and extensive presentation. No, I think it was very interesting because you really covered quite many different issues. But, well, before going into questions, I think that I will pass the microphone to Anna-Lena Wettergren-Westman from the ESF Council in Sweden, who also has, quite a long experience in working on the ESF innovative projects, and especially for the social economy.
Yeah. So I don't have any presentation, but I'll just want to talk a bit about how we do it in Sweden. So we have an operative program, of course, for the social fund. And we have 8 regional action plans to this one. And I think it's a good idea to start with the program and the programming, and how this is processed. During the writing of the suggestion for the Commission on the program in Sweden, the Ministry of Labour, who owns this, often have very large discussions with different stakeholders in the country, on the regional level. And these stakeholders also includes, of course, the social economy, civil society organization. So they are an active part in the writing of the operative program. And there are, quite a lot of discussions and debates and Normally the social economy sector think they don't get exactly what they want, but normally we find a nice Swedish way. Then when the operational program is processed and everything is finished, we write the regional action plans. And in that, it's even more obvious that the social economy is represented within these, in the writing and the socio-economic analysis that takes part in that makes the action plan for the social fund. And we also have structural fund partnerships who are the ultimate decision maker on which projects to actually promote and that actually gets the go-ahead on the regional level. And in this structural fund partnership, we have mostly politicians on the regional level, but also, of course, people representing the county labor board, the national insurance organization, and social economy. And the structural funds partnership just doesn't decide on which project to prioritize, but they also discuss with us from the ESF Managing Authority on the calls. So they have quite a great influence on which kind of projects we want to see and what different kind of themes they should address from call to call. So in the program, in the action plan, social innovation is quite at the bottom of it. And when we started discussing social innovation in, I don't know, quite a long time ago now, in these kind of terms, we are, a bit skeptical. Well, social economy and social innovation, it's not necessarily the same. And it's a bit easy, perhaps, to say if you have the social economy sector, then you have social innovation. This is perhaps not quite true. But since social innovation is more or less a horizontal theme in all our projects and in our program, I think the social fund in Sweden also has this capacity and obligation to try to finance good projects. So social economy is our second largest promoter and beneficiary from the social fund in Sweden. The municipalities are the biggest one, but the social economy organizations are quite strong as a promoter. Also, the Swedish program demands for 50% co-financing on the national level. We have the possibility to ask for a little less co-financing if you are working with especially vulnerable groups, for instance. But the project promoters come with us and say, this is how we're going to co-finance these projects. So this is, I think, if not a difficulty, it's a challenge, but it could also be, I think, the factor that could contribute to sustainability, because you have to collaborate with others. The social economy organization often don't have enough money themselves to co-finance these ESF projects. So they have to bring, for example, municipalities, or they have this programming period we can work with private money as well as co-financing. And then there are quite a lot of interesting social innovation things like the Lexel venture companies and charity funds that could be a part of this funding as well. Something that we have seen lately, and I think it has quite a lot of innovation, a lot to do with social innovation, is a new kind of agreement between mostly municipalities or regions with social economy organizations. It's called IOP, so it's social economy public agreements. And this has become quite the thing latest, and we see them a lot in our projects, but also outside. And they are developing this kind of form, but there are, of course, doubts. Will this disturb the market? Is this a way for the municipalities or the public office to go around public procurement and so on. So this is under constant development. And I think also that we have regarding transnational cooperation in this latest common framework call for the ESF, our authority for public procurement is now collaborating with Finland on how to use social clauses in public procurement. And this is something some of the Swedish regions have been very forward in to use. And we will see what happens with this. But I think it's also a good example. And it demands quite a lot of lobbying, I think, from the social economy organizations on the political level. Because Sweden has this very strict way of interpreting everything that comes from the Commission. We are always best in class. So can we do this? Are we doing something wrong? So now we are trying to loosen this up a bit and to see the possibilities with public procurement, actually. I can also give you some project examples, and I think you can find quite a lot of them on the website socialeconomy.pl from the two latest social economy networks. Some of you may know them. I think social franchising was quite a lot of things we talked about in the social economy network last programming period, where we had the example from Italy, Le Mat, which was taken successfully to Sweden. They were trying with something, Casa from UK, but I'm not sure this functioned in the Swedish context.
It's not functioning?
No, there are difficulties in the legislation on how this structure is going. But otherwise, we have quite this. One example is called Civis, and that's actually a municipality who's a project promoter, but they work together, and one of the targets of this is that people with different kind of diagnosis within the autism spectra, yes, they are going to start a bureau that's working like consultants for the municipalities or for private companies on how to be accessible and how to make use of these things. Selling training courses to both public administration, as I said, and private companies. You have, of course, one thing that's just starting. It's these competence centers, because we see that you need more competence in different things when you're having a social enterprise or an organization. So in Malmö, they're starting a kind of a competence center that's going to work with the organizations, with both employees, volunteers, managers, and also the people coming to these, for example, work integrating enterprises. So and creating knowledge alliances also between the public and the sector. So this will be very interesting to follow, to see how it develops. I also think that for the social economy organizations, yes, it's quite complicated to run an ESF project. It's nothing to pretend it's not. But we have tried this programming period, I know Flanders has, with a simple cost option, which puts a bit lower demand on the economic accountability, but maybe it's not enough. On the other hand, I think yes, if you know a bit of order, you can always have as an ESF project in Sweden. But it's complicated, and it's quite a lot of administration. That's how it is. Yes, but we try to be as helpful as we can. And I think our organizations, when I speak to my project promoters, we have good relationships. They are quite frank, and I'm quite frank back. So this is a good relationship. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Anna-Lena, and for
your presentation. And, well, we do not have so much time, and I think we are all tired, but I really would like to give the floor to you, all of you that have questions. Any questions about?
Hello, my name is Tihomir Baova. I'm from Bulgarian Ministry of Economy. Thank you very much for the useful information and the presentation. I would like to ask you about the social innovation and the meaning of the social innovation, the terminology, because, you know, in Bulgaria, Ministry of the people or the NGOs very often ask it. Take it the definition of social innovation, and we are answered, okay, but we not responsible. We use our operative programs, use European Fund for Regional Development, not the European Social Funds. And we use the definition of European Commission. But if I correct understand, the result of the social innovation is obligated to be to lead the employment. Is it correct? The employment of the vulnerable people of groups. Is it correct or not? Is it the final result of the social innovation?
I don't think that there is a specific definition of social innovation within the ESF, I would say. As far as, for example, the network, the transnational networks, I think that there was a discussion at the beginning of the, before creating those networks. And finally, social innovation, instead of having a network on social innovation, which was foreseen maybe at the very beginning, but finally social innovation is a transversal issue in the sense that each network has somehow to deal with social innovation and in its own way. But I would say that there is not a specific definition, and I guess that also within the ESF programs in each country, there is not even a common understanding about the term.
Well,
I don't know if you...
I can just say that in the Swedish ESF program, we use the Commission's rather
description.
Fluffy, if you can, I can say that in a good way, fluffy definition. And so, but for me, who has been working with the social fund for quite a while now, I think it's, for us at least, the social fund in itself is a facilitator for social innovation, because we finance things that are not financed within the normal systems, actually. So by being this financial instrument, we enhance and we can facilitate for social innovation. But then it's more up to the different project promoters to discuss and to argue and show if they have their own understanding and their own definition and what they want to achieve. Because, of course, it's the results in the long end that counts. But the results may come very much later on in society. So.
Only, if I may, just to add here, I come from Slovenian Forum for Social Entrepreneurship. About social innovation and social economy. I think that social innovation is a first phase or like a first step. Then later on, maybe it becomes a social company, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it just stays like a colleague explained your project, for example, with these single parents. I also had here a question. Here in this project, there are no new jobs created or some business. There's not business activity.
Services.
Yeah, it's about service. It's about some values principles.
If you see how it's made, the call, you see it's everything about services. How can we make a new type of service that can help employability of people? It's not about product innovation. We don't care. We don't want to fund a specific organization to improve their product or their process, or I don't know. It has to be transferable. If that's the case, then we are interested. If it's only valid for one company, then that's pure state aid. So we are not interested to do so. It's about creating a service that increase employability, the well-being of workers or well-being of people, disadvantaged people, etc., etc. So that's for us a very clear interpretation. But the how-to can be very different. We stress a lot of focus on. We focus a lot on the way, the methodologies, and we help them a lot with these methodologies. So we give them in the beginning of, for example, in the beginning of the first stage, we give really traineeships, like, for example, Lego Serious Play is only one, but you have these customer journeys, you have service designers, for example, but every project can choose which methodology he will use to tackle his particular challenge. So there is a whole set, and we are expert in some. Benedict is not me, of course, to be frankly. But we have also a set of trainers that we can hire to guide these projects. And if I can say, add one more thing, in the first call, the first stage was way more loose. But now in the second call, we launched this next month. It's kind of a copy, but a huge difference is that in the first phase, we really force them to hire a trainer, because if you're not capable to do it by yourself before a ESF project, why would you be it now? It's not by just giving you some money that suddenly the innovational trajectory will appear. So we don't believe this, that it's just not true. And if you can prove it that you have the capacity on board, okay, then we can talk. We can talk what we can maybe add to your project and your methodology. So that's for us a very important focus.
Yeah, I was going to come back to the question of definitions. I'm a lead expert on an URBAC project called Boosting Social Innovation. So I've read most of the literature on social innovation produced in Europe and the world. In the first meeting, I produced 25 different definitions, not me, but which are in literature. And basically, I would agree with the speaker here that you have to decide what it is for you. And the three fundamentals are either it's a new product, or it's a new service, or it's a way of doing things which is different. And it's the process of doing things which I think comes out as central. In my project, it's cities who are partners, and so it's cities who have to try and find out what is it that they're actually supporting. And it doesn't always go towards the social economy, but the social economy is a very interesting mattress for social innovation. But it depends how this fits. It sometimes fits, it sometimes doesn't fit. And I think I mean, the problem with innovation is if we were Madame Curie-Skłodowsky and we invented radium, would we know that we're poisoning our hands when we put it into the machine? She didn't, you know. So how do we know that something is innovation? And I'd be very interested to know two things about our Flemish friend. Who decides? Who's in the deciding group as to whether you go through the gate? Because in our local authorities, we have the problem that we're working against silos and for horizontal decisions. And when in social innovation we have a single department which decides whether it is or not, it causes a problem. We had this problem with Rotterdam, for example. So I'm very interested as to who is in the commission that decides and how you decide that the gate can be passed or not. That would be my question, therefore.
Again, I will try to be as short as possible. But for your second question, this will not be easy. I think I will just send you by email our grids how we assess this. But to your first question, I can quite easily answer. By accident, in 2 days, I have such a jury, and I am one of the project managers of this call, so I am in the jury. We always ask one expert on the topic itself, and it can be a conceptual expert. We prefer somebody of university. Then we ask somebody who is expert in doing business, really business modeling, write the business plan, etc. So this is also a very important thing that we assess. And then we ask somebody who is experienced at the terrain, so who is really experienced with the target group and the service providers, how this works. So this is a very nice and mixed team, because I have to admit, for me, I'm not the best expert in this team, but for me is, for example, the way of dealing with the ESF project impossible. But I have not the most important vote, as to say. So there's also unanimity, for example. It's not with voting. So this is how it works, and I think it works very fine. There is not at all any pressure of administration, MA, etc. They don't even know. They see the results. So if this is the case, then it's impossible. Then you don't have to make a call like this, because otherwise people will just cancel projects because of ideological background or something like this. This is something you cannot.
You're implying trust as a basis for action, which in Central European countries is a little more difficult. That's an English way of putting it.
Yeah. Okay. I hope things will emerge.
Can I say one thing more? I've done 3 excursions from Poland to France to find out more about how in France they use public procurement to stimulate and give more work to social economy. And they use a very interesting way, which has been developed since the European rules came out on public procurement. They use associations or salaried persons who are facilitators of the process. They help local authorities define which social clause, which insertion clause can actually be used and what fits the actual public procurement. When the decision making is done, the companies who have actually entered the public procurement competition and who win, they get help to try and resolve the problem of how they do the social clause. And the same structure knows the people, or has access to structures who knows the people who are going to be working in those integration areas. So this idea of triple facilitation is very, very interesting. I've seen it in 5 different places in France, in Paris, in the north, and elsewhere. And I think it's really, really very innovative as a process, because it seems to be helping local authorities on the most difficult element, which is, has my social clause been done? And it doesn't just do the controlling element, it accompanies the process. So we're holding somebody's hand and we're pulling him along. And they say that the private companies who know nothing about integration are very, very skeptic at the beginning. And now, in for example, Strasbourg, this association, which employs about 6 or 7 people, is dealing with about 300 companies in terms of possibilities of integration. So I think it's a very, very interesting model that we've discovered in France.
Hvala lepa.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. But as far as we are concerned, the main problem is that, for example, in France, they do not use or at least as far as we know, they don't use so much the ESF, or they don't share what they do within the ESF with other countries. That's the main problem.
The comments of several cities is we have enough money. So how long that's going to last, I don't know. But it's sure that it's very difficult.
Yeah, because of course I think that it's not only I think that there are quite a lot of things that are done almost everywhere, but we still do have a big problem of sharing, because you mentioned Urbact, and before there were the 2 presentations about Interreg, and they are, I think, and within the ESF we are also many of the projects are going in the same directions, but main problem is that there is not so much coordination, and I guess that's also, I mean, okay, this is maybe a discussion for another workshop, because I guess that we need, and I don't think that we do also within your ESF, you do not have many good examples of coordination with other funds.
We're trying to do that.
We I don't know if there are any other questions, but I think that we have to stop right now because also the bus is waiting and we are, I think all of us are really tired. Thank you very much. I mean, I didn't expect to have such a big audience. I mean, we are very satisfied. We were thinking of having no more than 10 people. So that's very good. Thank you very much. And anyway, we are still here tomorrow, so if you have specific questions to any of us, just you're very welcome. Thanks.